on behalf of the AFL Commission, it's my great pleasure to announce that Jason Dunstall will be elevated to legend status at the Hall of Fame induction on June the 18th.
It's played exceptional. Dunstall again. Oh, what a mark! Magnificent performance by this great Hawthorn champion, Bernie. And I don't think we've seen a better full forward play the game.
Oh, terrific stuff. Shrugs the tackle with the left foot. Now that is play of the year. 100 goals to Jason Dunstall.
Dangerous Dunstall. Breaks the tackle. Dunstall on the right foot, the champion full forward. Hooks it through his fifth. What a goal!
Well, the AFL have finally woken up to what we've known for a long, long time, and that this man who's joining us as a guest is a legend of the AFL and just a legend all-round good bloke. Well, he's come in for $5,000 tonight. He said, you did. You said, I'll come in for $5 cash. So, on behalf of everyone, all of us, our first time here, we laugh, we joke with you, we love who you are and what you bring to this joint, but please, heartfelt. I'm not sure how long it'll last for. Mate, well done. It is the greatest honour that can be bestowed and no one more deserving.
I appreciate it, Gary. Thank you very much. It's been a very strange day. I mean, we grew up in an era where you say the odd nice thing to your mates, but mostly it's sledging and bantering. And when you're at a footy club, as soon as you start to get a big head, you get brought back to earth very quickly by the boys. I've had nothing but nice things said to me today, and it feels a little uncomfortable. It feels strange, let me tell you.
It'll change tomorrow, Chief. You know?
I know.
I've been lucky enough to play against you and work with you for a long, long time. I'm interested to get these two boys because they see you through a whole different lens, I think. I know how modest you are and I know how humble you are. Did you take a moment today, or will that come, to sit back and think about the enormity of this achievement?
Oh, look, I'm incredibly humbled by it. I am. I mean, I think I'm number 32, so that's in the history of the game. You think, wow, that's an incredible honour to receive. But I feel incredibly fortunate, Gaz, because we played a game that we love to play, and I've actually had a life after playing in the industry as well, which I never thought growing up I would be doing. So to get a life out of AFL, you feel very grateful. But to have something like this is just, it's more than icing on the cake.
I'll just add to this, boys, and then I'll let you go. I did some homework today. 16 times 10 goals or more in this career.
Amazing.
It is incredible. You had 5 lots of 10.
Is that where I'm supposed to ask how many in a final, though?
5, no, don't bring that up. 5 11s, 4 12, a 14 and a 17. Unbelievable. Anyway, away you go, you two.
Yeah, no. How did you get to play in AFL? I know this is your life, but a boy from Cooperoo, which is really Division 2 team up in Queensland.
It's a little backhander, little sledge.
Yes, hang on a minute. well, let's say that might be Division 1, but how do you end up being a legend in the Hall of Fame?
It's a long journey. I started when I was 5, Brownie. I bugged my parents just to play footy. And I mean, I went to a private school, played rugby union. My old man would have had me playing rugby union from the age of 5, if you could play rugby at that age, but you couldn't. The only thing they would let you play at that age was Aussie rules, as we called it back then. So I played in the under-7s at Cooperoo and then stayed there until I came to Melbourne.
Did you play always, were you at the pointy end always, or did you actually, were you a hard-running midfielder?
You'll find this hard to believe. I grew up spending time in a number of different positions, half forward, ruck rover, centre half forward, and it wasn't until 84 when I started to play some senior footy at Cooperoo that I actually played full forward.
You played in a lot of successful years and in a very successful era. Can you recall when you most enjoyed the game?
I was like a kid in a lolly shop, Bucks. You come to Melbourne, don't quite have the history of the game that people down here that have grown up with it have. So everything was a little bit, you're having your eyes open to a brand new world. And just to play with some of the biggest names in the game. I mean, you walk in, you see Lee Matthews and Peter Knights and these sort of people, you're thinking, wow. I only ever seen them on TV. We used to get Match of the Day on a Saturday afternoon back in Brisbane. And you just, I was a Carlton supporter. You'd hope that Carlton would be playing, but you'd watch whatever game came on. And you got to appreciate these legends. And then all of a sudden you're trying to train with them and play. And that was really, really challenging at the time because you feel out of place.
It's very tough for me, though, but as a Fitzroy supporter, were you supposed to go to Fitzroy or did they knock you back?
I trained with them for a week, Brownie, and they said, fat bloke, no good. And they kept Rossi McIver. So Scotty McIver. Gee, Rossi was his brother. Scotty McIver and I played a state game in Tassie, and then we both trained for a week at Fitzroy on the way back. And Scotty ended up playing for them, and I got the Khyber.
Famously, I read this story today in the paper. Greg Baum said Chief and Scotty McIver turned up, and after the session, whoever it was says, the fat bloke's no good, but you can keep the skinny one. So they got rid of the Chief, and off he went. And I was an Hawthorn man, you know that. I was massive. So Lee Matthews, 1985 grand final, and then you essentially took his spot. Is that fair? Like, you have to...
Yeah, my first year was his last year, and I think my first game was round 3, and it was only because he was injured and didn't play. So
did you play alongside him?
I played a few games with him, and that was difficult because I'd play in the pocket. And he played full forward.
Draws the footy a bit.
He does, and he'd draw the footy when he had 3 blokes on. And sometimes you're all on your own. You're thinking, here I go. And they just kick it to Barney every time. And most of the time he beat 3 blokes and kicked the goal, you know. Such was his skill.
And then 86 was your coming out year. Your grand final, kicked 6 on Bruce Dool in the grand final.
After he kept me goalless in the semis, I got a whooping from him in the semi-final. And he was one of my heroes growing up, Bruce Dool.
Unbelievable.
They were great duels, though.
Yep.
Duel. I remember as a kid watching those duels between Duel and yourself.
It was all one-on-one, though. You got to play against your opponent.
You had some pretty good guys delivering you the footy over the years. Can you?
Yeah, but I don't like to talk them up too much because they talk themselves up. Well, I know you're a mid.
Give us a 3-2-1. I know you're going to have to differentiate you. I reckon I know.
Jarman won.
I could pick
Jarman was one.
Jarman won.
I thought this bloke would be close.
He's top 3. I think Platten 2.
And what was it?
3.
What was it about the respective? So Platten, you had Platten in there in the top 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so what was it about them? So Platts, why?
Oh, look at that.
All 3 that I just named could kick both sides of the body.
Right.
Jars probably had better range and could weight it the best of them all. But Rat was steaming out of it. I mean, kicks across the body that you just don't have to break stride for from Jarman, extraordinary. But Pritch was brilliant coming off the wing and Rat out of the middle. They'd hit you up. You kind of lived and died by what was happening further afield.
No room for Dipper?
Oh,
please. The only pass you get from Dipper was a shot that fell short.
Tell me this. I've never asked you this. Well, when there'd be a whole generation of people who know you from the bounce now, kids probably, if they're watching this.
They've got no idea that we played, just that
well, they do now. They know you're one of the all-timers, which is great. Can you tell us, I don't know if endurance wasn't your strength, but you must have been unbelievably high up in the 20-metre sprint, for instance, and bench, strength and power. Yeah. So can you give us an idea?
Yeah, well, that was me. My game was built around power and strength. So I reckon I was about 95 kilos when I got to the club. Within 5 years, I was 110, playing at 110.
You don't need to talk about your weight, mate.
Well, you can't now, because it's 0 age, mate. I'm actually 0 kg, so you can't talk about it. But that was it, because back then, because there was so much one-on-one, who's the stronger, who can hold their ground, to take contested marks. And then it was all about being explosive over 10 or 15.
How many of those did you take, you reckon, where you folks would have watched the vision, you just held out, balls there, and just off you go, bang, away you go. Well,
that was you've got to... Everyone's blessed with something that they can do, and you try to work at your strengths as much as possible.
And the goal kicking, I'm like a star.
I was going to ask you about the 100 goal kick.
Well, just before you get the 100, the Glenferrie Oval Wednesday night, so I was telling the boys earlier, you and George Stone, bag of balls, was it every Wednesday night you go down there and kick goals?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was after training Tuesdays and Thursdays as well. Right. So you'd have 3 sessions a week, but Stoney was there, rain, hail or shine. And because I look at how I kicked when I first got to the club, I was running in and blasting the ball, holding it right up the top, and by the time I finished I was holding it down the bottom, and it was a very casual walking, just nice and straight and short, and so you refine things over the journey.
So that was your change in sort of kicking technique. How'd you go with Buddy when you were coaching from the other side?
Buddy was a touch stubborn. But players back themselves. You know, they back their skills, and that's okay. I was at a position where I just said, okay, I always thought about things logically. Yeah. For me, it was about percentages. So what's the best way? What gives you the greatest margin for error? And so that was my routine, was also always honing my goal kicking so that I could kick the highest percentage from the shots I was supposed to. Don't worry about the ones on the boundary. That's a bit of feel. It's the ones that you should kick, you have to kick.
And that year, you kicked 145 in 92. Finished second in the Brownlow that year, I think. Scott
Can't
Wine.
get past the midfielders, Bounty.
Well, Scott Wine beat you that year. How many hit-outs did Scotty Wine have that year to beat you?
He was a good player, Scotty.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was. Every Brownlow medalist. You kicked 145 goals and got 18 votes. Is that right?
Yep.
18?
One was 6 goals came in the first final that we lost. So 139 for the year.
The 102 in 96 compared to, say, the first 100 you kicked in 88, did you feel like it was noticeably harder to kick your bags later in your career?
But 96 too, the body was ailing, Buck.
Right.
So I was using every trick in the trade.
But not so much that, but the way the game was the game changing? Did you feel
it hadn't changed by then.
Right.
It was just my physical capabilities had changed. So the leads were getting shorter, and it was just you had to make every kick count.
You weren't an overly emotional man, Chieftain. Like, you're going to crack a smile at any stage after you kick 100?
It's time for that after.
What do you mean there's time for that after?
It's business.
Look
what
at
you're
this.
going about.
You've just kicked 100. Have a sip of the water, back you go.
He did afterwards.
These days they take their jumper off, swirl it around their head and run 3 laps.
Yeah, they plan their celebrations now, don't they?
Did you really sort of lap that up and enjoy when the crowd would come out and get around you for that?
Well, that game there, that was up for. We needed to win to get in the finals. And
that was the merger game too.
Yeah, correct.
That's right.
And
we didn't know if there were 2 teams going to exist beyond that.
Or whether they'd be together or whether they wouldn't be there. And you get a 7-minute delay, an 8-minute delay. We're trying to win a game. So, again, it came back to logic for me.
Did you have a set aim? I saw Greg Williams get interviewed last week saying he had to have 10 touches a quarter. Needed 40 as his pass mark. Did you go into a game thinking I need 2 a quarter, or you had a set number in your head as far as goals?
I thought a minimum 4 a game made you feel like you've contributed, because back then it was a much more free scoring sort of play, so you're expected with the service that was coming out. If I didn't kick 4, I'm really not doing my job.
Anyone get a hold of you? Like
Plenty.
Who?
They were queuing up at the end.
You said no. You said there was no one of any note that got a hold of you. You told me.
Shut up. Don't put words in my mouth. Sauce was always the hardest for me. In fact, I got a great message from Sauce today. He was a spectacularly difficult opponent. He was
loved
quick,
to hold on. He
was great at holding on. But he was also quick, and he was strong, and he was gangly, and he could get there and ungainly, but would find a way to sort of do the job on you. So he was definitely the hardest.
Was Zeno Tatsaris?
No.
Who was it?
I reckon I played on Zeno for a half in a practice game, dislocated my finger, and the boys all said he kept you goalless. I think I kicked 3 for the half.
Oh, sorry.
It was a practice game, Gaz. It wasn't even a competition game.
Sorry.
Which of your coaches was probably in the formative years more so, but which of your coaches was most impactful to setting you on your way?
No doubt it was Alan Jeans. He was the father figure that a lot of the players viewed in that way. But he was the first one that introduced me to the amount of work that I needed to do to make it, because I was a long way behind in terms of fitness, and it wasn't the scientific fitness that they do now. It was just go and do a 10k run, and I'd come in a k behind everyone else, or do a 5k time trial, and I'd get lapped by everybody. He'd have me down at Sandringham running up the boat ramps and things like that on the weekend doing extra sessions. But it was like pulling teeth. I hated it. But then when the balls came out, it was a lot more fun. But it was just understanding what you needed to do to play the game.
I was playing the day when the Duke accidentally kneed you in the head, and that's where you got the skull fracture. How scary was that?
I didn't know what had happened at the time, so I took a sliding chest mark, was rolling over, and he was just trying to stop and stand on the mark, and just there.
Yeah.
It didn't look like anything. But I grabbed my head, I'm like, there's a bit of a dent there.
Yeah, your
which
face
didn't feel
fallen.
great. Yeah. And then the doctor came out and said, you better come straight off.
How many games did you miss?
7 or 8, I reckon.
Right.
Yeah.
We played together in the same side, the Allies team
too.
in 96. You weren't out in the
Mate,
field.
you're a traitor. You weren't in Victoria
I nearly
first.
snapped my neck that day.
No, you weren't out in the field for too long. You had a full scorpion.
Yeah.
Oh, that was Queensland.
Not doing a lot for your figure.
Please, my rig looks awesome there, Brownie.
So how many states?
That looks better.
How many states did you actually represent?
Yeah. I played for Queensland. I played for Queensland Northern Territory. Played for the Allies.
Beautiful
played
conditions.
For Victoria. They change the rules every year.
That day, he's playing in the pocket with Plugger at full forward.
And Ablett
And
as well,
Ablett
wasn't
as
it?
well.
No,
on the flank.
Abbott
not
didn't play on
Ablett,
that
that
game.
one.
Abbott played a little bit later in the piece.
So this
And
was
the Allies.
This
You
is
got
the
the
game
lot.
I was talking about. You ended
Cracking jumper.
You ended up doing full scorpion there, and that was it.
Yeah, that was all she wrote.
What did you end up doing? What was your injury?
It was a neck injury, Nathan. Now, would you?
What else would it be? Good point, Joe.
You think it needed to be broken for me to go off?
Very good point.
That actually gave me the biggest fright on a footy field that I'd ever had.
That's the insight you get on the couch.
Yeah.
That's what we're working with.
It's a neck injury.
He's virtually saying, get up and play on.
Yeah.
Well, Gary O'Donnell had to re-divot. Like,
Oh.
there was a massive, 1 foot divot out.
Hey, we're going to have to
from
let
the
you go,
scone.
which is sad because we've got so much still. But
An administrator too. Like,
I was just about to say,
wouldn't that a golden era?
4 premierships you played in?
Yep.
And then integral in another 4 because you appointed Alistair Clarkson, which is... Give us, the people at home who are going, how did you get the chief nickname? So let us know how you got that. Because this runs into this.
Sam gave me that.
Because
I was interim CEO at Hawthorn. We'd made changes there and I was sitting on I'd been seconded onto the board in 2004 and they said, would you mind doing that job so that we have time then to do a proper search and get the right person to take over. So it just coincided with the end of the season and us needing to make some changes, predominantly in the football department, which at least, I had some idea about.
And you appointed Alistair Clarkson, which at the time was, again, you guys were only young, but it was controversial because there was strong...
Mixed reactions, Gaz.
There were strong Hawthorn men who were very hard pushing for an Eade or an Ayres, and you weren't strong enough in your conviction, and it would have taken some courage, and Plough would have been another one, to go outside of that group.
The difficulty was we had been doing it the old Hawthorn way for too long, and it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to sit there and say, well, if we keep doing that, we're going to get to
brave
we need to think outside the circle, but there's a bit of luck involved, mate. You know that. Clarko ended up... He was incredibly impressive when he applied for it, but worked out perfectly.
We'd have to let you go. So I dug one more photo up for you two blokes to get. I first came across him when I was in the nightclub scene, and I tell you what, he had this look going, and this was the sort of stuff he was rolling with as he rocked around the metro.
Pretty cool, Bucks.
The salute.
That's awesome.
You should bring that back, Jeff.
No neck injury there. That's strong.
Wasn't a bad-looking bloke back then.
Very good looking
Is
man.
that Gary Ayres?
Very good. Hey, as we said off the top, we're blessed that we get to see you so regularly through here. All of these blokes, camera crew, floor managers, everyone love you. And when the news came through, we were in a meeting this morning, couldn't have seen a more happier group. So for you to come in tonight's great. Your big night will be in July, so we'll probably have to do it all again. Blow wind up.
Big night. Big night.
I appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. I really do.
Thanks for coming. Well done. There he is, the great man himself, Jason Dunstall. We'll be back with more after this.